Hi, it's Nørgaard. So today we are continuing the declutter series, and this will be my final eyeshadow palette declutter video. And by the way, I had quite a lot of iced coffee today and I'm feeling quite anxious. I actually had an energy drink just the other day and I got such bad anxiety. I was really feeling bad for like 24 hours. It wasn't just a few hours after I drank the energy drink. I was feeling really bad for more than a whole day. So I have been wanting to stay away from energy drinks. So instead I have been having some iced coffee, but I think I need to cut out caffeine completely because I'm just feeling really anxious again, and yeah, I'm just not feeling good. And you know, I was having a little bit of caffeine because I'm in the middle of writing a project for university, and I'm doing an internship, and I'm doing different kind of things for my studies. So I just wanted to have a little more energy, but yeah, I think I need to cut it out because I'm feeling like physically and mentally not all the way there. So from tomorrow, there is no more of that. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that because I'm having a bit of a hard time to focus right now. I can tell I feel really overwhelmed looking at all these palettes and having to declutter them. I have no idea where to start, or, you know, I don't have an overview at all, I feel. But yeah, the show must go on, so we are just going to push through it. So without further ado, let's just get right into the video. So I'm going to start out here, I think. So all of these palettes over here are my little Wet n Wild trios. So they look like this if you're not familiar. These eyeshadows are extremely good quality, and of course they're very affordable since they are from Wet n Wild. And I do have quite a lot of them. I know I have done tutorials with Cool as a Cucumber, and I think I did one with Walking on Eggshells as well, or it might have been Sweet as Candy. So yeah, I really love these eyeshadow palettes. They are extremely good quality. So I'm going to keep these. Then all the white palettes, the little white palettes right here, are eyeshadow quads from e.l.f. These are so cute. I just love these. The quality is not the best. It's not the worst. It's just kind of in the middle where most of the colors are workable, but they're not gonna blow your mind. And yeah, I'm going to keep all of these as well. Then over here I have another little e.l.f. palette. This one is the Flawless Eyeshadow Quad in the color Beautiful Browns. So this one I'm going to declutter. It's not a bad eyeshadow palette, but it's not great either, and it doesn't excite me. The colors are very, very common. So yeah, I'm going to declutter this one. Then I have another eyeshadow palette by e.l.f. This is Necessary Nudes, and this is from their clay line. So it looks like this. This one is actually really pretty, and I'm going to keep this one. Then I have two trios by Essence. I actually did a makeup look or makeup tutorial with this trio, and it's actually so pretty. I really like the colors in here. I love the taupe color. I love the highlight. The brown is more like standard, but it's a good color nonetheless. And this kind of like smoky version I like a little less, just because I like browns a bit more than grays, but it's still a pretty good palette with a black, a gray and a white. So for now I'm going to keep both of them. Okay, so over here we have a Wet n Wild palette. This is called Rosé in the Air, and this is like a dupe for the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette. You know, that palette has been duped 500 times. Like every drugstore brand has a dupe for Modern Renaissance. But anyway, this is a pretty good dupe and I'm going to keep this. Then I have this palette by Gosh, which is a Danish makeup company. So the colors look like this. This palette is called To Be Cool in Copenhagen. And as you can see, it's a very cool toned palette. And everything in here is matte. And I actually really like this palette, and I'm going to keep it. Okay, so all of these are my Catrice little palettes. I really love all of these palettes and I'm going to keep all of them. Then we have all of these palettes, which are my Technique palettes. And again, this is another case of me keeping all of them. Some of these Technique palettes are better than others, but generally the quality is pretty decent and it's an extremely affordable brand. And then here in the back I have two larger Technique palettes that I'm also going to keep. Okay, so next up we have my Rimmel palettes. The standout Rimmel palette is definitely this one, the Spice Edition. This one is a wonderful dupe for the Urban Decay Naked Heat. I'm definitely keeping this. And then I have two other larger Rimmel palettes. So this one is kind of a dupe for the original Urban Decay Naked palette, and this other one is more of a dupe for the Naked 3. These ones are not the same formula as the Spice palette. Unfortunately, the quality is not as good in these two as in the Spice palette. However, they are still decent palettes and I'm going to keep them. And then down here I have these 3 mini palettes. So again, these are kind of Naked palette dupes. So this one is kind of like the original. This one is kind of like Naked 2. And then we have Naked 3. And I'm going to keep these as well. Then I have this Hello New York palette by Essence. So it looks like this. It's a cool toned palette. As you can see, it's actually really beautiful and very unique to my collection. So this one I'm keeping. And over here I have two palettes by Makeup Revolution. So this one is a dupe for the Lorac like Pro palette, I just think it's called. And I'm keeping this. And then this one is a dupe for the second Pro palette from Lorac. So I'm also keeping this. Then I have these two really fun eyeshadow palettes by W7. So one is called Grape Escape. So it's like a purple palette. And the other one is called Hot Tropic, which is a more neutral brownie bronzy palette. And I really like both of these, so I'm keeping these. So next up I have this trio by CoverGirl. It's called Shimmering Sands. This is a beautiful little trio. It's pretty good quality and I do really like it and I'm going to keep it. I just wish like this big part down here, I wish it wasn't there because it takes up like half the palette to have this big empty space where there was just a little sponge tip applicator, you know. But yeah, I'm still going to keep it. So next up we have another palette or quad by Gosh. So it looks like this. So it's a really smoky, cool toned gray palette. This one is actually pretty good quality. I really like the pigmentation in these shadows, but I think I'm going to declutter it just because I don't use these kind of tones too often, and also it's pretty old, so I just feel like it's time to declutter it. Next up we have this 5-pan Wet n Wild eyeshadow palette. This one is not the same formula as the trios. This formula is not nearly as good. So just for that reason, I'm going to declutter this palette. Next up, we have a New York Color trio. I actually did a makeup tutorial with this one that turned out really nice. I really liked that look. But the eyeshadow trio is not pretty spectacular in itself. So I'm going to declutter this as well. Next up, we have this little eye set, again by New York Color. This one is actually so pretty. Yeah, I really like this. I'm going to keep this for now. Then we have two little LA Colors eyeshadow palettes. I like both of these. These are decent quality. They're not the best, but definitely not the worst. And these are only like $1. So I'm going to keep these. Then I have this W7 gray eyeshadow palette. I'm going to declutter this just because, again, I don't use gray smoky shadows that often, and yeah, it doesn't inspire me, so I'm decluttering this. Then I have this Makeup Academy palette. This one is actually a dupe for the Urban Decay Naked Basics palette. This is really good quality. I'm keeping this. Then I have two fairly new eyeshadow palettes by W7. These are actually dupes for MAC palettes. I haven't tried them out yet, but I'm really excited to try them. I've heard really good things, so I'm keeping these. Then I have this other little 9-pan palette by Primark. This one is not a spectacular palette. Everything in here is like light to medium. There are no really deep dark shades. There are no truly matte colors in here either. But as you can see on the front of the palette, this one was only €3, so it was really affordable. And for the price, it's a decent palette, so I'm going to keep this. Then I have these 4 palettes by W7 again. Yeah, I'm going to keep these as well. These are pretty good. And then here we have all my little Essence palettes. These are all pretty good as well, and I'm going to keep all of them. And finally we have this LA Colors Nude Eyeshadow Palette. I bought this for $1 and it's a pretty good palette for the price, so I'm also keeping this. It's okay, so I put everything back in the drawer, and I did rearrange my palettes around in my 3 eyeshadow palette drawers. So this is the one below, this is the one all the way at the bottom. So I just kind of mixed palettes between all 3 drawers to make them fit the best that I could. I tried my best. It's not a perfect system, but I wanted to lay it out so that I could easier distinguish my different palettes from one another. Because if you have too many palettes lined up like this where you can't tell them apart, you're just not going to be that likely to reach for the different palettes, because you don't know what you're getting. And if you're kind of in a hurry, you just want to grab something and know what you're getting, then this kind of way is not the best. So that's why I have been trying to break up my black palettes from each other. So right now all of these palettes right here are my Technique palettes. So I know if I go for a palette in here, it's gonna be by Technique. The same goes for the palettes back here. These are my large Technique palettes. And in the video you only saw me having 2 large Technique palettes, but I recently bought some new ones, so I just added them right in here. So yeah, this is how the collection is looking now. So hopefully this new layout is gonna make it easier for me to find what I'm looking for, and in that way use more of my palettes. And yeah, here we have the decluttered palettes. So I decluttered 5 palettes, which is pretty good to me. So yeah, let me know what you think of the declutter video down below. And don't forget to give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. You can also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and you can click the bell to get post notifications. So yeah, next video will be single eyeshadows and kind of like liquid and cream shadows. So that will be coming up next. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. That is all, so take care and bye bye.